delighted to be joined once again by John Mullane, who wasn't on a podcast last week. I don't know if that's a coincidence because Waterford suffered one of the biggest and most shocking defeats in their history. John, were you gone missing last week?
Didn't get the call, Verney, so
I'd say you're a happy man not to get the call last week.
Absolutely, yeah. I suppose with all the negative talk that was within the county, it was a good week to avoid everyone. So yeah, I was happy to take a break last weekend, or last week, should I say.
In fairness, you did write a column about it and you said to keep the faith, and obviously Waterford had a good result at the weekend. We'll come to that maybe down the road a small bit. Some great games over the weekend, Mull. I think the league is turning into what we hoped it might. Great game in Salthill on Saturday night, a belter of a game in the Gaelic grounds on Sunday, and that's where we start. Limerick obviously coming away 4 or 5 points to spare in the wind-up. What were your thoughts on this game? Like, you're looking at it and you're thinking, this is a reasonably full-strength Tipperary team against a rookie enough Limerick team, particularly said Limerick team that took the field in the second half. And once again, Limerick hit that 30-point mark. They kind of wrestle the momentum away from Tipperary, and Tipperary can't really get scores from play in the second half. What were your kind of overriding thoughts or takeaways from the game?
But from a Tipperary point of view, the moment Kyle Hayes kind of went off the field and left the field, I was kind of saying to my own mind, sitting back watching the game, right, go and win the match now. You know, considering the personnel that Limerick were already down, and then, you know, considering how big an influence Kyle Hayes has at number 6, you're then saying to these Tipperary players, right, we're playing Limerick in the first game. We've got to get the monkey off the back. We've got to get some sort of victory over Limerick, albeit, you know, it might be a depleted Limerick team. But, you know, the Limerick team that's probably still taking the field are a decent team. But considering the whole Limerick were down, you know, if you were Liam Cattle, if you were a Tipperary supporter, you would have been saying, right, we need to go and win this match. And unfortunately, they didn't push on and win the match. And I think from, you know, if you're Liam Cattle and you're a Tipperary supporter, you will be thoroughly disappointed because, you know, when that match comes on the horizon again in a couple of weeks and it's the first round of the championship, you know, what angle do you go at to try and motivate your team and say, right, lads, you know, we can go and take these boys on and we can go and take them down. And I suppose that's the one thing that probably disappointed me from a Tipperary point of view. And yeah, I suppose the other worry I would have, you know, if I was a Tipperary supporter and if I was Liam Cahill, and you can see it, he's trying to inject, you know, pace, you know, outside of Jake Morris. You know, you're looking at the Tipperary, you know, forward division. They're not really going to hurt you with a whole lot of pace, Verney. You know, when you go back to that Tipperary team of, you know, when they last won the All-Ireland or won the last couple of All-Irelands, you know, Lara had burn you, Callan had burn you, you know, Kelly had burn you know, they dropped the shoulder and go straight at you. You know, you had a Shane McGrath coming through midfield.
James Mullane, if they got ball in hand around the 30-yard line, you're thinking, oh no.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, and that's the one worry I would have from a Tipperary point of view, and I suppose hence that's probably the reason why Cahill is saying to themselves, right, we got to take Jake Morris out of the full forward line, and I think that's probably the one major positive is by, you know, positioning him at number 11 where, you know, he gets the ball. He'll go, his one immediate thought is, right, I'm going direct running and taking on my man and I'm going straight for goal. And I think that's probably the one concern that would concern me about Tipperary, that come the summer, come the hard ground, do they have that pace up top to go and take on the big teams? And for me, looking on now, I don't think they do, Verney, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely a worry, and this is an even bigger worry when you go through who Limerick were missing the other day, who will be available come summertime. Like, this is like a who's who of some of the greatest of all time. Sean Finn, Mike Casey, Barry Nash, Kyle Hayes, Declan Hannon, Will O'Donoghue, Darragh O'Donovan, Cathal O'Neill, Gearoid Hegarty, Tom Morrissey, Seamus Flanagan, Shane O'Brien and Peter Casey. So just on the point you were saying there, like if they can't beat Limerick without them and all the advantages maybe that were in their favour, some task come the first round of Munster.
Well, you go back to even when Cathal was over at Waterford, I think, they couldn't pick up a victory of any description over Limerick. They were always coming up short. And I remember one league fixture down in Welsh Park. I think there was one Limerick player. I think was it Sean Finn or there was someone in the full back line was sent off.
I think Hayes was sent off that day. And
was it?
And Flanagan might also have been sent off. They definitely had at least one sent off, yeah.
Yeah, they were definitely down to 14 men. And then, the question was posed to Waterford, right, what are you going to do? Are you going to push on and win the match? And that day, Waterford pushed on and won the match. And they came out of Welsh Park that day, with something to go off and say, right, the next time we play Limerick, we can, we've beaten them already, albeit probably a Limerick team that were down a few bodies. Tipperary don't have that to go off when they meet in the start of April. And you just named the personnel that you've just named. That's frightening, and to think that all those bodies are going to come back. It's going to be an uphill task for Liam Cathal to rally the troops. And I just don't know. I'd be very, very interested, even when we do, break down that game in April. What angle is he going to go at to say, well, right, we can get something out of this match? But from Limerick's point of view, John Kiley's point of view, it's a wonderful position to be in, I suppose.
He's rubbing his hands together, Mull, isn't he? He must be.
Well, the one thing that they didn't have last year was cover for every line, particularly in their full back line. When Barry Nash got injured, Sean Finn got injured, and you look at every line now, they've cover for every line. So if there's players out, it's not going to weaken their balance one bit. And that's. He finds himself in a fabulous position. And interesting, his comments in the immediate aftermath of the match, commenting on not having a pre-season to worry about, that it's stood him in good stead. Very, very interesting. The management of his handling of the Seamus Flanagan affair. Massive kudos to John Kiley, how he's handled that. One thing he did mention, and I just think it's class as a manager from a player's point of view. He said, right, we're in a great position now. We'll train. We've the break coming up. We'll train hard twice this week, and everyone will take a break next weekend. Everyone will have the weekend off. How many other inter-county managers, Verney, next weekend would have the luxury or to be able to say to their players, you know what, lads, we're have to get off to a good start of the league. We have a good block of training done. Everyone go away, wives, girlfriends, go away, enjoy yourselves for the weekend. I just think, when you hear stuff like that, like it's fantastic from a player's point of view, and it's that's really, really good management from a top class manager,
But that's a trust in what you're doing, isn't it? That's a trust in the training you're doing and the level of commitment that's been put in. That's it. You're trusting them that I'm sure they'll all still, a couple of them might have a couple of pints or something like that maybe, but it's a trust. That's a level. You can only do that if you have a level of trust.
Well, it's nearly a reward for probably getting off to a good start in the league, and a reward for knowing that. And he's touched on it, the block of work that they were allowed, get in this year in contrast to the previous years, off the back of no pre-season. And you're effectively rewarding the players if they were right. And you just touched on having that trust to say, well, right, I'm going to leave you off for the weekend. Go off of your own accord. If you want to have a few beers, have a few beers. If you want to go away, possibly for a weekend, go away for a weekend, and we'll see you again next Tuesday.
Yeah, just on some of the young guns, like Patrick O'Donovan, some of the scores he got, Aidan O'Connor as well, brilliant. Barry Murphy's not exactly a young gun, but by Jesus, he's making that cornerback spot his own at the minute as well. Like it's a great problem for Kiley to have, isn't it? That he's seemingly unearthed a load of new players that they're not to the manner born. It's not going to be perfect, but they're all putting their hands up at the minute, the vast majority anyway.
Yeah, and I'd say Kiley will be dropping Derek McGrath a text, or giving Derek McGrath a text to say, "Hey, Derek, I'd like to thank you for unearthing Barry Murphy as a new centre back with Down, and now corner back with Limerick." And again, we go back to that. If you want to say it, embarrassment to riches, a bit like Cork. We're now, you have a ready-made corner back to go in if Sean Finn gets injured, if Barry Nash gets injured. Here's a lad, step up and fill that void if any of those boys do happen to get injured. I still think if the two boys are available, Sean Finn and Barry Nash, they will be first on the team sheet. But
it's all about having options and road tested options, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and absolutely. And I can't even get my head around all the talk that's surrounding Kyle Hayes at number 6 and Declan Hannon. Everyone just totally writing off Declan Hannon. Like, has anyone even put a bit of thought into this to say, well, right, every day is a different day. Every day brings different challenges. Like, if we're playing Tipperary one day, Declan Hannon could be centre back. If we're playing Clare, Declan Hannon will still be centre back. Kyle Hayes will be on the wing. If we play Cork, right, on the 2 occasions last year, we've got to change it up. We looked at it in the All-Ireland semi-final last year when we played Limerick, or when we played Cork. For the last 20-25 minutes, we put Kyle in at number 6, and we drove ourselves right back into the match. And I just think it'll be horse for courses, and they'll look at the opposition, they'll look at the personnel that they're going to be coming up against. And if they're playing Cork, I'd say you'll probably see Kyle Hayes at number 6, and I'd say you'll still see Declan Hannon, and Declan Hannon will possibly go out in the wing. So, but again, they've so many options, and the competition, and I can only imagine now the A versus B games. It puts pressure on the old reliables. The old reliables that won the All Irelands the last couple of years, and we've seen time and time again with teams that are trying to come back after losing an All Ireland. You need to freshen it up. You need to re-energise it, and that's exactly what Kiley's going to do. And you're throwing it back to those lads that did get you over the line and won you those couple of All-Irelands. That, hey, look, you know what? Your position, there's no one safe here. We've got a couple of young guys that are mad to take your place, and I think overall players accept that, and I think that's healthy for any team environment, and effectively for the spirit of the group as well.
One fella that definitely looks re-energised is Dermot Burns. Like, it's ridiculous how easy he makes it look. Like, when he's in top form, just to be lofting over points from 90 yards, he makes it look ridiculously easy. And he looks like a fella that has the bit firmly between his teeth.
Probably the bit firmly between his teeth, because probably, a bit of the commentary surrounding, his place on the team and his form, and, players, they try to insulate themselves from all that talk, but I'm sure, you can only insulate yourself so much, and I'm sure, a couple of his friends or a couple of his family members will be saying, you know what, everyone is starting to write you off here, and when people start to write you off, that's when you can roll up the sleeves and grind the teeth a bit more and try to prove a point. And he most certainly proved a point last Sunday against Tipperary that, this lad is going nowhere. He's still a top class player, and as you just alluded to there, like, if you take your eyes off him, and if Limerick work those little sharp passes, across the field, 2, 3, 4, 5 passes, and this lad gets an opportunity to put his head up and plant the feet. It's effectively 9 times out of 10 going to be a score from long range.
Just to put a bow on this game, Shawnee Keneally's goal. unbelievable. Like, what a finish. It was like, and it came off the hurl like it was coming out of a cannon. The speed of it, I just love that. You cannot beat an instinctive goal like that.
No, you can't. And you know, when you're at home, if you're live at the match, or even if you're sitting down at home on the couch and you're saying, my immediate thought was, wow. And I just turned around to her, and she was out in the kitchen. I said, you got to come in and see this goal, rewind it. And I said, wow, it was just stunning. And, you know, you got to credit the pass, the weight of the pass, from Darren Hegarty. Shane Downham was a bit unlucky. He got a hurley to it, but you know, when you connect like that, there's only one place that's going, and that's going to the top corner. And yeah, an unbelievable goal, a fabulous goal from him.
Nisha Waldron's commentary on TG Carter was brilliant. He just goes, when looking back, and he just goes, lad. There's a fairly instinctive reaction to it as well. But obviously, Limerick have 3 points from their 2 games now. Galway, we kind of said it, Mull. We both said we'd have like a lot of faith in the Donoghue project. It's gas. You can't get too excited after one game. Who's in a better spot now? They're both on 4 points, but after Tipperary hammered Galway the first day, you'd probably say Galway are in a better spot than Tipperary now, although both on 4 points. They had a good win over Clare the other night. Very good first half. Second half was probably a bit stop-start, but like we're talking about inside forwards there and instinct. Anthony Burns fairly put his hand up anyway. Here's a guy who, by all accounts, if Loughrea had their full selection in recent years, he mightn't have even made their starting 15. He is more of a soccer player, regarded as more of a soccer player than a hurler. But he was outstanding the other night and just so dangerous. The pick-up for the goal was beautiful as well. Just the sort of player... That's exactly the type of player they need. It was Declan McLaughlin the previous week and Anthony Burns this week.
Yeah, again, and look, you know, you gotta credit, you know, Micheál Donoghue, even his approach to the league, you know, giving lads, you know, every opportunity to go and put their hand up. And, you know, as you just touched on there, it was Declan McLaughlin the following week, Burns this week. You know, even you look at Fleming. Really like the look of him.
John, he's a lad that makes a forward line tick. It's all grand having the silk, and you need lads with the silk like yourself, but you need your Seamus Prendergast or you need your Bonner Matters. You need boys that link the play, and he does it beautifully. Does a lot of donkey work.
Well, the old saying, you need the mix. You need the mix, Verney. And no team, you're not going to win a game with. Well, bar with the exception of probably Limerick, but you need it. You're not going to win it, but just 6 lovely, stylish, you know, forwards. I mean, you know, you touched on a name there, Seamus Pendergast, Big Dan. I mean, we wouldn't have got half the scores only for those lads, and you need 1 or 2 of them in every forward division, and you know that's what. That's what Micheál Donoghue is building right now, is trying to get that formula, that magic formula right within that forward division. And, you know, he's going about it the right way. And I think even someone like Jason Flynn, he's been extremely unlucky the last couple of matches. You know, he's gone on ball, could have picked off a couple of scores, came on against Kilkenny, you know, stepped up, you know, was able to take on that leadership role of banging over those frees. I think there's definitely a player in Jason Flynn. And I think Micheál Donoghue could, you know, we seen Jason Flynn under Micheál Donoghue when they won the All Ireland. I think, you know, O'Donoghue will get the best out of Jason Flynn again. And look, as a whole, I said it there 2 weeks ago. I said it 2 weeks ago. Like, everyone is talking about this. I said it was the one project I was kind of really, you know, excited by was the Galway project under Micheál Donoghue. And I think it could happen a lot quicker than people are thinking. Like, you know, people are saying, you know, he has a 4-year term. It's going to take him 2 or 3 years, but Galway have serious hurlers, Verney, and, you know, I don't think the jigsaw could be long. It won't take long for the jigsaw under Donoghue to knit together. And I think, you know, I think he has 2 wins out of 2 now. I think he'll be anxious to get another win on the board secure their Division 1 status for next year. It'd be interesting then. Would he turn his nose up at getting to a league final? I don't think he would. I think winning a league would serve this group of players really well. So yeah, I think from a Galway point of view, you'd have to be impressed of how they've gone about things today.
Just what you said there. If the right people are steering the ship can sail smoothly very, very quickly. It doesn't take that long. I saw it in my own county. We were at the bottom of the barrel before Duignan took over as chairman, and then all of a sudden, 2 years later, you're looking at something completely different. I don't think it would. I honestly don't think it will take Donoghue and Franny Ford and Aidan Hart and Noel Larkin that long to turn things around. I honestly don't. I think if you have the right people steering the ship, you have a great chance of turning things around quite quickly. Yeah,
100%. And look, he's on the ground. He knows the club scene. And look, I suppose you can't underestimate probably the work that probably Henry done as well. Probably didn't get the results, but I think, albeit probably Henry, when you reflect on his time up in Galway, he's probably a bit disappointed that he didn't pick up any silverware. But don't tell me for 1 minute that some of those players who shared the dressing room with Henry Shefflin the last 3 years wouldn't have picked up an enormous amount of any of the traits that Henry would have had as a player, and would have brought it into a man, brought into his management setup. So I actually think from off the back of that, I think, albeit the results didn't go Henry's way, I think it would have served well to a lot of that Galway panel. And now here you are. Now you've just O'Donoghue coming in at the perfect time. It's probably at a small bit of a low ebb, but hey, look, they're in the Leinster Championship. They've got every opportunity of finishing that top three, getting into a Leinster final. And yeah, as you just touched on, just having all those guys, even holding on to Eamon O'Shea as well, I thought was a good move. And yeah, it'll be very, very interesting where this Galway project will go for the remainder of this league, and most certainly into the Leinster Championship.
Just on Clare, Mull, it's a different league campaign already, completely different than last year. They were kind of flying high last year the whole way throughout the league. It's different probably when they're All-Ireland champions going into the league this time around. A lot of new faces. Tony Kelly came off the bench late on. What have you thought of them so far? Like, they're down a lot of bodies at the minute. There's no point in saying any different.
Well, look, out of every manager, I suppose, when you win an All Ireland and after winning the league last year, it kind of gives you an allowance to say, well, look, you nearly have a free shot at this year's league campaign. I don't think their focus will be solely on the league. I think a big part of their focus this year will be trying to capture a Munster Championship, capture a trophy that they haven't won since. Is it going on 27 years now?
98. So it's mad to think about. Yeah,
98. So I think, look, they've Wexford up next. I think, look, Brian Lohan, they'll be still anxious to hold on to their Division 1A status. They've Wexford up next. That's a big one for them. You will be expecting that, considering the personnel that Wexford are down and Clare are down. I think probably Clare will have probably more bodies back within the next 2 weeks. You will be expecting that they would pick up 2 points there. And I think they'll target then. I think they've probably 3 games left after that. I think they'll target then winning 2 out of those 3 games. And, if they win 2 out of those remaining 3 games, that will be 6 points. And I think that would suffice for Brian Lohan. I think he will be delighted with that. Would it be the end of the world if Clare were relegated? Most certainly not, because I think their focus will be on that Cork fixture up in Ennis in April, getting off to a good start in that Munster Championship. They won't want to lose their first round as they did last year against Limerick. I think what Brian Lohan will be anxious to do is to try and unearth 1 or 2 more players, because that's what last year's league campaign It was very, very, very beneficial for Clare last year, where they picked up 4 or 5 players that really, had an impact in their All Ireland winning campaign. But yeah, last weekend was, it was difficult. Good to see Tony Kelly back on the field. But the first game against Kilkenny, they were extremely unlucky not to have gotten something out of that match. So yeah, I don't think Brian Lohan will be too downbeat about the start of the campaign, but he will be anxious to pick up 2 points against Wexford and get the show back on the road, get
Just
back to winning ways.
Just to clear up something, I know there's been a good few people asking, even online or wondering online. Adam Hogan missed the Fitzgibbon game during the week for Mary I. The amount of days needed to pass the concussion protocols hadn't passed on the Wednesday, but they had passed by the Saturday. So that's why he played Saturday. He wasn't pulled or anything like that. And Shane Meaton was injured. Now, he was named in the Clare team on Saturday, which he probably shouldn't have been, because he was definitely injured and was definitely not going to feature. But that was the reason why the two of those didn't play Fitzgibbon, and obviously why Meaton didn't play the other night as well. Mull, the other Division 1A game finished Kilkenny 2-17, Wexford 15. An 8-point win for Kilkenny. But my takeaway from this is, and I think it's a recurring theme with Kilkenny recently, you played against them back in the day, Mull, and if they were 10 up in the first half, they'd beat you by 25 if they got the chance to. This current team, I think, don't have that same ruthless streak, as in when they have the foot on the throat, they don't squeeze every last ounce of oxygen out of you. Like, Wexford had it back to 6, and I just think you have a chance to just really lay down a marker here. Do you know? Really, you're going to face them again in the Leinster Championship. Really, if you can beat them by 20, beat them by 25. Yeah. That's, and I just think it's been a recurring theme. They're leaving teams in games. That's something that's not normal for Kilkenny teams.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's definitely a miss in this current bunch, and you go back to that team of under Cody, they would psychologically destroy you, and you even go back to last year's All Ireland semi-final against Clare. They should have been out of sight at half time. You know what I mean? What they went in at half time, 6 points up, they possibly should have been 10, 12 points up, and it would have been effectively game over. And that most certainly has to be a worry for Derek Ling right now. You even go back to the previous 2 games, slow out of the blocks against Clare, hurling in patches against Galway. So yeah, it's not something you would associate or associate with Kilkenny teams. And I think Derek Ling, for the remainder of this league, if they find themselves in that position, he will be banging the drum. Right, lads, we've really got to go now. And if we do find ourselves 5, 6 points up, we go 7, we go 8, we go 9, we go 10 points up, and we don't leave these teams up for auction. And that's what they effectively done. They probably did. They take the foot off the pedal, or are we being a bit unkind to Wexford in that Wexford up the ante? I think there was probably both, really. If you want my own honest opinion, if you look at Wexford, their first half, you're at home watching, saying, Jesus, Wexford are in serious bother. And then they come out in the second half and they just really ramp up the intensity levels, really roll up the sleeves, really grind the teeth, and, start to get in the face, start getting the hooks in, the blocks in, start getting turnovers. And I think one, passage of play that kind of defined, that the change in the Wexford mindset in that second half was, albeit he got a yellow card, was Kyle Dunbar's challenge on Keane Kenny. Keane Kenny was, banging over points, at his ease, and it was kind of like, one challenge, albeit he came in, led with the arm around the neck, but it was kind of a little reminder to say, hey, you know what, this is going to be a different Wexford in the second half. And I think Wexford a bit like Waterford. I wouldn't be pushing the panic button just yet. I did say after the first game against Cork that it was going to be a very, very difficult campaign, that they wouldn't pick up too many results. But I honestly believe, Michael, when you get Chin back, when you get Liam Ryan back, Conor McDonald, Jack O'Connor, Rory O'Connor went off injured. When you get those big physical men back and you throw them up top along with your Keane Burns, your this Redmond kid who's really showing up well, with your Richie Lawlers. I think Wexford are going to be okay, and I think they'll have a big say in the Leinster Championship. And look, you go back to it, Michael. How many times would the ball go up to a forward line within a game? Say, would it be 70 times the ball would go up? You're a cornerback. You would have marked me back in the day. If you've the likes of the Chins, the McDonalds, the Jack O'Connors, the Rory Connors, all in the one four division, the ball will go up, but it'll stick. It won't come back down the field just as quick as we seen in the first half last Saturday night. So I think Wexford, when they get all those bodies back, look, it's going to be, they're as good as probably, 70, 75, 80%. They're probably going to go down. But I think that the key thing for Wexford and Key Rossler is, if they get a couple more sticky results and results don't go against them, that morale doesn't drop, the spirit in the group doesn't drop, that, even the morale within the county doesn't drop, that they remain positive. Our objective is the Leinster Championship, and to try and finish in that top three and try and get to a Leinster final.
Well, just something you mentioned there, and I think it's really, really interesting. Cathal Dunbar's challenge, right? Hurling and sport is a kind of a funny thing. I remember we went down to play Ballyea in a challenge game one Sunday morning, and it was absolutely splitting the rocks, and they were opening us up. They were about 9 up at half time, I'd say. And about 2 or 3 minutes into the second half, one of our lads, Shawnee Ryan, he just ran into Tony Kelly. He just ran into him and started a bit of a confrontation. And then all of a sudden, 20 lads were in and just a bit of handbags and whatever. And then all of a sudden, we opened up. They didn't take anyone off. We opened up. The game completely changed. I think we won by 6 or 7 in the wind-up. But isn't it funny how, if you can sometimes just wrestle a bit of momentum or just upset people? Any examples from your own career even where that happened?
Yeah, well, look, the best lad and probably our most iconic player would have been Kane. I mean, Kane, if Ken would just go through you, like, and if you'd know by Ken's demeanour or his body language, and if he let fly or if he went through a lad, that would really galvanise lads and say, right, lads, we're all going now. It would be one kind of instant to say, Ken would probably be getting upset, or Ken would, by that passage, or by that, I wouldn't say stroke or whatever, but that one kind of moment of real physical contact would say, right, it's kind of right, a message to the other lads to say, hey, right, sorry for my language, ye row in behind me now, and we drive on, and he was the artist. He was unbelievable at doing that and picking the moment to say, well, look, lads, it's time to get going now and roll up the sleeves. So yeah, you're 100% right. But he would be the one person, the standout person for me alone, that, when you're kind of at that low ebb and you need a little bit of a lift, and, you need a little bit of, one kind of, say, crazy challenge, or one moment of kind of physical contact to say, right, let's go, lads. And yeah, I just thought, even last Saturday night, I just thought it was that one little moment by Cathal Dunbar. And, after that kind of little statement of physicality for all the world, next thing, all the Wexford lads kind of, they were like bumblebees. They were just on the Kilkenny boys like a rash. One player that I really, really like is Conor Hearn, Verney.
Yeah.
Came in last year, and you're seeing now, the fruits of a lad, given his opportunity last year, and his game seems to have pushed on now off the back of that. And even McGuckian at wing back, Foley. We mentioned Richie Lawler. Yeah, you gotta credit Rossler for blooding these lads. And you know yourself, Verity, sometimes you find out more about the character of your team and the character of a player when you're down an enormous amount of bodies and big leaders and big characters within your setup. And sometimes you throw it over to them. Well, right, lads, are you going to sink or are you going to swim? And even you take a last Saturday night when Rory O'Connor went off and Simon O'Donoghue went off and they were getting beating up a stick. You've seen the personality of some of these players that they were able to say, well, right, I'm going to start rolling up my sleeves. And I think I even seen it the previous week. I covered the match against Tipperary. They were 8 points down, and I was saying to myself, right, you know what? You're 7 or 8 points down, 9 points down. Try and finish the game with the last 4 or 5 scores and keep going to the end. And that's one thing that's instilled in this Wexford team that I've seen within the last two weekends, that they keep going to the final whistle and they will be rewarded. And if you get that into your DNA, that you're going to keep going to the final whistle, there'll come a squeaky time moment within the summer, within the Leinster Championship, that it will go down to that squeaky bum time. And it will be ingrained to them to keep going to the final whistle, and they will get rewarded.
Oh, it's a great sign of a fella when things are going badly, and the lad steps up. Like, that's because the wheels can completely come off in that scenario. But when lads kind of just stand up and embrace it, it's a great sign of a fella. Mull, we're obviously we're nearly always talking hurling on this show, but there was a bit of football over the weekend, so just wanted to briefly touch on it. Finished Kerry 118, Donegal 23. Laois had a big win over Leitrim in Division 3, and Wicklow had a good win over Waterford, your own county, in Division 4. I'm wondering, as a GA supporter and spectator, what have you thought of the new rules actually so far?
Yeah, I suppose it's given new life to the game. It's re-energized the game. From an entertainment point of view, it's more enjoyable to watch right now. As one person said to me, you could go out and cut the grass and come back in, and there would have been no score on the scoreboard. Now it's you only have to look at the scores that are being clocked up. Really, really good on the eye. I think even when you see current players, being talking so positively about it, I think it's been a breath of fresh air for football as a whole. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and massive kudos to the people who've put these new rules in place.
I just put it out actually about an hour ago. Just if you could make one rule change to hurling, what would it be and why? I just put it out on X, and lots of comments back on it, and I'll get maybe your opinion after, but I'll just fly through a few quickly. John Keogh just says, take time keeping away from refs in both codes. I think we can both agree with that. David Byrne, time stops when there is a stop in play. Mark Ahern, TMO for senior inter-county. Cleena Foley, formerly of the Irish Independent Parish. Heavier Slitter, too many points from downtown is robbing game of goalmouth dramatics. Michael Power enforced the steps rule. Jamie Domican, 2-pointer for the sideline cut. That level of skill deserves extra reward. Andrew Horn, maybe an adaptation of the solo and goal rule. That'd be interesting actually, potentially. Brendan McTaggart, underarm throw instead of hand pass. It's basically happening anyway. That's been a common theme from the replies about the hand pass or the throw been an issue. One thing that has been enforced definitely throughout the league is steps. I've definitely noticed that refs are pulling for steps when it gets to 6 or 7. I think they're pulling. But if you could make any change to hurling, I know, Mull, we think the game is perfect, and it's listen, it's not far off perfect. But if there was a change or an alteration that you could make, what would it be and why?
Look, you grew up in an era, and I grew up in an era where the goalkeeper puck out the ball, and you have the likes of Brian Cork and Brian Whelan, Shawnee McMahon, Ken McGrath, going up, catching a ball, even Tommy Welch back in the day. If we could enforce something within the rules that, the goalkeeper would have to go long on a couple of occasions, I think would really, really, get, the personnel that are there at the match, or the spectator that's there at the match, more excited. But again,
how about Mull? Ball has to go past the 45.
45, but are you, are you then saying to, every player, you're going to push out and look to engage in that middle third with an enormous amount of bodies? Like, uh, I would echo that. I would like to see something along those lines, but I think for that to happen, the starting point of the full forward line, I think has to be possibly on the 13 or the 21. That has to be the starting point on the puck out for both the three across the full back line and the three full forward lines, three across the full forward line for that to allow that to happen.
That obviously makes it a bit more difficult to reinforce. I don't necessarily think there's many changes needed, but I do think the 65 is too easy now. With the quality of striking of lads, like you see Darren Burns, like he could put it over from his own 65 and further back easily. Maybe
do you bring it back to the 45 in the opposition's half?
No, even the middle of the field or the far 65 maybe, or something like that. Just something. I just think 65s are very, very easily scored now. I can remember when Shawnee Mack got 4 65s, I think it was, in the 95 final, and you're like, wow, this is unbelievable, like, because it's kind of unheard of. Whereas now, like, you'd be very, very surprised if someone missed a 65. Do you know what I mean? That would just be a small alteration, but I wouldn't be going making sweeping changes anyway, definitely not.
Well, and you only have to look at the boy Darren Hegarty for Tipperary. I mean, it's flawless what he's doing. The beacon of accuracy he's doing. He's like a lad now with a Robin Hood with a bow and arrow, and it's like boom, and it's just straight over the black spot. His free take in the weekend was just immaculate, unbelievable. It was.
Do you see the little spoon of a hurl he's using? Like, it can be no more than 31 inches. It's tiny.
And you look at his grip. You know the way a lot of lads would have the grip and it would come down nearly halfway down to the hurley. His grip is kind of, it's only barely coming down from the arc from the arc. You watch it the next time. It's barely literally where he can hold his hand, and then the rest is ash.
By the sounds of it, we wouldn't be changing too much about hurling, not for the minute anyway.
No, absolutely not.
Not for the minute. One of the standout results in 1B was my own county, Offaly, getting a brilliant result against Antrim. Finished 226 to 17 points. But this was kind of over at half time. I was very, very impressed, I have to say. I was surprised, pleasantly surprised. But Offaly are... every day won't be like that, and they're going to have a lot of road bumps over the coming years. But that was a very, very good sign of maybe what's to come in 3 or 4 years' time.
Oh, absolutely, and you can slowly see it's starting to come together, and great credit to Johnny Kelly. He's got Seamus Callan in there, Brendan Maher, but you can even see, a year on the physical development of some of these 20s, and even someone like Duignan. Duignan's game has gone onto a totally different level, and they were ruthless the weekend. You touched on Kilkenny, Michael. Look at Offaly the weekend. When they went 7-8 points up, they had that ruthless streak in them. We're going to go 10, we're going to go 11, we're going to go 12 up. And, if you're an Offaly supporter right now, you will be very, very encouraged by what you're seeing. And I just think from a supporter's point of view, Verney, and I'd like to ask you the question. I think this current group, you have the good days with the 20s, you have the good days with the minors. You can get 20,000 down to Nolan Park, You get 15,000 into Port I think this group of players, the likes of the Dylans, the likes of the Samsons, the likes of the Ben Keneallys, I think they deserve support, Michael. And even to look on from the match the weekend, to see the small crowd that turned up the weekend. I think if I was an Offaly former player, a former Offaly player, I would be calling some of these supporters out to say, you know what, lads, a true supporter, get behind this get behind Johnny Kelly and get behind this group, and you know let's start coming out in force, and let's start getting numbers behind this group. And look, we've seen it with the 20s, and we've seen it with the minors. When that Offaly roar goes up of Ufalia, that's worth three or four scores. And I know, look, there's an affinity there with Leo O'Connor's team, but you know, the sign of a really true supporter and really great supporters that they'll get behind their senior team. And I think this group of lads, and the likes of the Dylans, the Killian Sampsons, as I touched on, the Ben Keneallys, they deserve the support. And I would say to the Offaly supporters is, start coming out and getting behind this team, because they're slowly starting to put the blocks in place that they are going to compete in this year's Leinster Championship. And what's to say that they can't go on and compete in Leinster in the next couple of years and possibly push on and win a Leinster Championship at senior level?
Yeah, well, you're not wrong, Mull, because I would hazard a guess and say that when Offaly play the first round of the Under-20 Championship, there will probably be more of an Offaly support at that match than there is at most senior games, even league games, or even some championship games, which is not right. But that's not right.
No, it's not right. But you put yourself in Dylan's position, or Samson's position, or Ben Keneally's position, who are equally putting in. It's just probably on par with the amount of work that the 20s are putting in, and probably putting in more.
More, I'd say, yeah.
You're looking on and you're seeing the 20s get 15, 20,000, pushing on and support them, and then a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand are only going to come to watch the seniors when they're playing. So I just think someone within Offaly, there's not been fantastic work done within the last 4 to 5 years, but I think someone needs to come out and throw it out there and throw it back to the Offaly supporters to it's time now to get behind this senior team, which is being backed up by a lot of these 20 players, and get behind Johnny Kelly, get behind Seamus Canlan, and get behind Brendan Maher. I mean, to have two lads of that calibre coming into your county and helping out, I think they deserve the backing,
And just what you're saying there, they've earned the support now. Do you know what I mean? Like, their performances are earned it. So you'd hope that the attendance would increase over time. But the mood is definitely good within the county at the minute anyway, I can tell you that.
But even 1B, and we go back to the jeopardy, we've been waiting possibly the last 6-7 years to get a really, really good, league that we can be proud of. And I think we're after landing on one now. And even look at 1B and the Carlow and Waterford. So it's really after throwing the cat amongst the pigeons. Waterford are under pressure now. Every game the Waterford go out now, they have to go and win. And even look at that one fixture I am really, really looking forward to is when Offaly come down to Dungarvan. I think it's under lights on a Saturday night. I think that could be possibly the last game, is it?
Yeah, I think they're all on the Saturday evening, actually. Yeah,
the last game, like that could be a tie where it could be between Waterford and Offaly to try and get into a league final. But the way Carlow are after getting that result against Waterford, they're in a fabulous position now. If they were to push on now and beat Westmeath and beat Laois, all of a sudden now they're in on 7 points, and they'll fancy taking on Dublin and having a right crack off at Dublin. So I think Division 1B is poised lovely for what's to come in the next couple of weeks as well, Verney.
The mood in your own county is probably a lot better this week, John, I'd say as well. A good win over Laois, 10-point winners in the wind-up. There was probably a good bit of loose talk, I'd imagine, the week after the Carlow game. But it's great that the games come thick and fast and you get a chance to get back on the horse straight away and right the wrongs. No more than Galway getting hammered by Tipp and getting on the horse again the week after, and then the week after again. I'm sure that was a fairly welcome result in the Daisha.
Yeah, well, I just touched on it last week. I think cool heads needed to were needed last week. I think probably there was possibly an overreaction to the Carrow as well, considering the personnel that we were down. As I touched on, considering that we didn't play in week one, Carrow had a game under our belts, and Carlow went up to Tullamore and got a draw. And I mean, you're reflecting now on the Carlow win over Offaly, and you're saying, Jesus, the result up in Tullamore, considering how well Offaly have played against Bowleash and Antrim, that was a very, very good result. So I think, but I think it was important that coming off the back of that Carlow defeat, that the only way you react is by beating Laois, and they made hard work of it. If you told me, I was at the match, if you told me after 45 minutes that we'd push on and win the game by 10 points, I would have taken the arm and the leg off you. I thought the two Fitzgeralds were very, very good. I think Patrick Fitzgerald could be one of those top forwards, a bit like Desi Hutchinson. I think he's going to fast become that caliber player. Mark Fitzgerald, he ended the match out around the half-back line. I think when Prunty and Tig or when Irla Daly come back, I think I would like to see Mark Fitzgerald out around the half-back line. It was good to see Corrick Daly back as well. He got 55 minutes into the legs.
Mull, he's fairly after bulking up, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, he's probably going to need a couple of games to get back up to speed, but he'll be like a new signing for us. And one interesting change was the placement of Shane Bennett at wing back. Picked off a couple of good scores early doors, probably played in the full forward line, half forward line. But go back to that minor winning team in 2013. He was exceptional back wing back. So I think with the absence of both Fagan and Caleb Lyons, I think there's a bit of a void there where they're kind of still both attacking wing backs. And I think Peter will be eager to kind of get something similar. And I think he might land on those players. With if he was to try Mark Fitzgerald wing back, he can be an attacking wing back. Shane Bennett can be an attacking wing back. Corrick Daly, he can play anywhere. He could play midfield or he could play wing back. So slowly but surely, good to see Desi back. Good to see Paddy Levy back. I thought Conor Sheen done very, very, very well. I thought the two cornerbacks, Conor Ryan, Romo really had the bulking up. Thought he was very good. Conor within my own club, De La Salle, Conor Keane, I thought he gave a very, very good account of himself. So, yeah, a bit like Wexford, I think once we slowly get the bodies back, I think we won't be too bad coming the Munster Championship, Michael.
Just a final word on the action from the weekend. Dublin, it's not an easy place to go to, down to Mullingar. Came away 7-point winners. Obviously lost a man during the game as well. But they're tipping away nicely. They have Offaly in Croke Park in 2 weeks, which will be a big game.
Yeah, well, I suppose we'll find out a bit more of where Dublin are right now. I suppose it's hard to judge them off the back of the Antrim win and the Westmeath win. They made hard work of it there last Sunday. But I think Dublin hurling as a whole are I think it's Nafinia's win is giving Dublin that injection. It's given it a huge boost. I really like the manager Neil Callan. I think if he's given the time in the next 3 to 4 years, I think he can really make things happen within Dublin. I think Owen O'Donnell, Verney, one of my favourite players within the last 5-6 years. I just think just when something good is going to materialise in Dublin, you lose one of your best players. And I just thought it was a strange move by Owen to go and commit to the footballers. And just when you think things are going to suddenly, all of a sudden, something's good is going to happen, and they're starting to find a couple of players that can really help their cause, and then Owen decides to go and play the footballers. I think you'll only find out within the next couple of weeks, and particularly in the Leinster Championship, how big of a loss Owen O'Donnell is going to be. But yeah, I think you'll find out an awful lot more about where Dublin are, and where you can find out or gauge from where they are in 2 weeks' time when they do play Offaly. And that again, go back to 1B, it's one fixture we can really look forward to,
Mull, there was obviously a very sombre note kind of over the whole weekend with Michael Coleman's tragic passing. I wouldn't have seen that much of him, but I would have heard a lot about him, and even from chatting to Cyril Farrell, the time he would have had for him, and he was just a midfield general. Like, it just really, really sad news. He was a fantastic player, and by all accounts, an absolute gent off the pitch as well.
Michael, look, my early years, I suppose, I would have been watching probably hurling, probably effectively from '87. What a player! Oh, what a player! Mix it. He could mix it either way, Michael. If you wanted to get down and dirty, he get down and dirty. If you just wanted to hurl, he'll hurl. He could be. Oh, what a player! I can those games between Tipperary, Galway back in the late '80s, and it was great servant to Galway hurling, and my condolences go to the Coleman family. Such an awful tragedy, and you see with the scenes there on Saturday night, fantastic, lovely scenes, and it just goes to show you, what he meant to the Galway people, and he's going to be an enormous loss to the Galway hurling public and the Galway GA public as a whole, and to the whole GA family as a whole. He's going to be an enormous loss, And I suppose, look, coming off the back of Paddy Cullen, our condolences go to the Cullen family as well. So yeah, it was a bleak week for the GA in that regard,
Well, I should have said it to you when we were talking about Waterford there. Just there was big news, obviously, in Waterford over the weekend with Darragh Sullivan stepping aside from Ballygunner. I think he was 6 years in charge, 6 Waterford titles, 3 Munsters in a row, and obviously the famous All-Ireland in 2022. Jason Ryan, the former Wexford and Kildare football manager, replaced him, current Wexford hurling selector. What did you make of the news? Obviously, Darragh leaving and obviously Jason coming in.
Hey, you save the best for last, don't you? Yeah, yeah. Look, I suppose. Look, my thoughts on Jason going in. Look, Jason is a former player of my own club. I'm probably not best placed to answer this question. You're kind of have to throw it on me. So yeah, possibly the reaction within our own club, De La Salle, probably hasn't gone down too well, considering Jason would have been a former player within our club. He big boots to fill. Darragh Sullivan done an unbelievable job with Ballygunner. You look at their success in Munster. You look at their continued success within the county, and they won that All Ireland. Probably people will point at they've probably underachieved with All Ireland success, but to keep that group motivated every day to go out and to keep their standards so high, and to keep that group constantly motivated to keep going out and to keep achieving. You can only sit back and applaud his achievements. He probably feels that the time is right to step away. And I suppose, yeah, look, from Jason's point of view, he's big shoes to fill. He've records to maintain, and he's standards to maintain, and he's going to have will be a difficult job. I think only time will tell. How he will go, and how he be. It'll be very interesting. What the approach will be. Considering that he is a De La Salle man, and the rivalry between some of the city clubs. I think it's a strange appointment. This is probably one of the biggest jobs. Let's be honest about it within the club scene, and Yeah, I was just a small bit taken back that Jason's going to be the man to take over. Considering then as well that you've probably a lot of big personalities that are currently within Ballygunner that would have big opinions on how things should materialise for their club, that they would turn to a De La Salle man to try and keep steering the ship forward and keep steering the ship and winning county championships and Munster titles and possibly win another All Ireland. But yeah, look, it's a difficult question you're after asking me, Bernie, and I'm after answering it as best as I can.
You surely did, yeah. No, I appreciate that, Mull. Definitely interesting times ahead anyway. That's it for this week's show. Huge thanks to John Mullane once again. It's all football this weekend, and we'll be back once again next Tuesday with another episode of Indo GAA, and we will chat to you then. Thanks a million, folks.